good morning everybody, and welcome to the largest safari vehicle in the world. It is like I say, a dingy morning, a little bit on the cool side, but I think it's going to separate at some point and we're going to end up with another hot day like we had yesterday. My name is Tristan, and on camera today I've got Senzo. Hello Senzo. And this is coming to you live from South Africa, which means that you can participate, and that you can do by hashtag Safari Live or YouTube chat, should you want to ask any questions, or maybe even if you want to just say hello from wherever you're watching. Right now, the plan for the morning, I'm not quite sure, to be honest. I woke up this morning, I've been pottering about. We had a little chat around the coffee station this morning, and I actually haven't heard too much, and really I'm not quite sure where I want to go, to be honest. I'm just kind of sitting on quarantine and hoping things kind of inspire me to go in a certain direction. But I think maybe what we're going to do is, I think Hyena Den is where I'm going to go. That's what I've decided. I'm going to go and check the Hyena Den first while it's still a little overcast. Maybe I get lucky with some of the little ones out and about, and then from there maybe check the western boundary for any signs of the Nkuhumas or Birminghams. I doubt we're going to find anything for them, given that they did actually bring down that buffalo all the way on the Simambili Ottawa boundary. So I think they're probably in all likelihood going to be in a food coma on that side of the world. And so I don't think they'll be around, but there was also tracks for a male leopard apparently somewhere on Triple M yesterday afternoon. So maybe Djuma is hanging around, and it'll be nice to try and catch up with him. So that is the basic plans, and then we'll just take it as it comes from there. And I think it's going to be a nice morning. It's going to be very similar to yesterday in that it's overcast and cloudy, and that means that we're going to have a situation where I think it's going to be fairly kind of active this morning. I think a lot of the cats will probably be active quite deep into the morning, which is fantastic, because that always gives us a chance then to be able to find them. If they sort of lie down and they don't move around, then we generally find them and they're already kind of flat. It's nice when you find them and they're still moving and doing their thing. So hopefully we'll have a busy morning. I wonder if maybe, I've got this funny feeling that wild dogs might be around. I don't know why, I've just got that feeling that the dogs could potentially be moving around in this area, and so maybe they'll pop out for us. That'll be quite nice. Or we can just leave it up to all of you guys. Maybe you guys can tell me where I should go, what I should be looking for this morning. Hashtag Safari Live. After I've finished at the Hyena Den, maybe you can let me know where you think I should go from there. So hashtag Safari Live, where Tristan should go on safari this morning, and where he should find, and what I should be looking for. Maybe you guys have some ideas for me, besides maybe pangolin, aardvark and honey badger, because those three are all potluck, and maybe looking for them is going to be a bit tough. Although you never know, these days seems like pangolins are dropping from trees in this area, or just not on Djuma, but to the west of us there's pangolins being seen almost at a weekly rate at the moment, which is pretty crazy. So maybe we'll get lucky and our turn will come as well. Cassie, you say you would love to see Shongile and the baby hippo. Well, baby hippo we can do. I'm pretty sure that shouldn't be too difficult to find. I'm sure it's still around Chitwa Dam. Shongile, well, maybe slightly on the harder side. I don't really know where to even start with her anymore, or where to even look, but I certainly will check around and maybe I get lucky. There's definitely a female leopard that's moving around the Vuyatela area. You see the tracks regularly around camp. Who it is, I don't know. It could be Thandi, obviously it could be Shadow even, and obviously it then could be Shongile too, or maybe another female, we just don't know. But there's definitely this small female leopard track that's been moving around, and I don't know, it just doesn't fit for me, Thandi or Shadow's track. I mean, obviously I spoke to Herbie about this, because Herbie also was with me the other day when I saw them, and he agrees with me that they look too small for both of those cats, but he says he's not sure. He says, you know, at the end of the day it could be we just might be wishful thinking. Herbie's got a wise head on his shoulders, and so we are maybe just trying to kind of clutch at straws a little bit by looking at the tracks, and it could just be trying to kind of think that she's here. But for me, there's just something that's off about those tracks that doesn't kind of lead my mind towards Thandi, but I could be completely wrong, of course, and it could most definitely be her. Tracking to that level where you can identify an individual's foot is a very difficult process unless there's some sort of indication on that foot of a difference. So maybe a toe that is slightly growing a little in a different direction, or a little marking underneath the pad of some sort that then allows you to kind of identify that that is that individual. There used to be a leopard down in the south of Lion Sands area that Chauveau male, well, he's still around, not used to be, but he's got a little X scar on his foot. And so when you track him, you actually get a little tiny cross that's in the middle of the pad, and you can see exactly who that male is. It's quite cool, actually. It's almost like a little kind of mark that identifies him as this individual. So I'm gonna, hopefully we'll get a track that's like that from one of the girls, and we'll be able to then start working it out. Now there are tracks for hyenas going up towards the den site, so hopefully the den will be active. I mean, it's obviously still a long way from where the den is, but there are a lot of tracks going up via tele-access, and hopefully they'll turn up Aubrey's and towards the den site itself. Right, now I'm going to kind of just head towards hyena den. Also just need to get hold of some of the guys on the radio and just ask them about some of the updates. And while I do that, I believe Taylor McCurdy has managed to find the reserve once again and wants to say good morning.
Oh, hello everybody, sorry. Good morning. Hi everyone, my name is Taylor, and on camera with me today is Manu, who was also just taken off guard completely. It's a wonderful morning out here. We're in the Masai Mara National Reserve. Scott was just behind us as well. We're now going through a crossing called Balloon Crossing. Scott's teaching me the various crossings today, so that's going to be our plan, but we're also hoping to get to some cheetah, which will be nice.
Make my way to Mitikai. Now sorry about that, guys. I was just on the radio quickly just talking to the guys this morning, just telling them that I'm out and about and just trying to get a general kind of sort of word with everybody just to make sure what's going on. So that's at least the idea. It seems as though Taylor's still got a few little issues, and I think Scotty too, so hopefully, hang on a second, that's something I haven't seen in a while and is encouraging. How fresh are you? Not very, unfortunately. So there's tracks for elephants here, but these are not fresh, unfortunately. These are fairly old. I'll show you now what I'm talking about and why I say they are not very fresh. If you have a look over here on my right hand side, you can see a number of big disc-like shapes, and that's all obviously elephant foots that are going up. But if we focus in on one of the elephant foots just on the top, that one over there, you'll see that there's a round circle within the track itself. Now that is from an antline, so that antline has built its pitfall trap right in the middle of this track, which means that this track wasn't made early this morning. It must have been made a couple of days ago for that to have formed. There's also a number of antelope tracks on it, sticks that are sitting on top of the track, so you can see there's bits of grass and debris that is sitting on top. Now if an elephant walks here and it stands on that, that's going to be compressed into the track itself, and so these tracks are not very fresh, unfortunately. Nice to see, but not very fresh, which is a bit sad. I was hoping we would get nice fresh tracks, because at the end of the day it's always nice when the earlies are around. But I think these are the elephants that we saw them that were a little bit on the shy side. I think it's the same herd. It kind of feels like they came up this way. I left them going towards Rebecca's. I think it was Rebecca's. Was it Rebecca's? No, I had them on Rebecca's. I can't remember now. It was all blurring into one. But no, I had them at Pangolin Track, that's right. And they were heading towards Philemon's Dip and then on to Rebecca's and then up this way. So they did, I'm sure it's that particular herd. And like I say, they were a little bit on the shy side. So I'm sure they've gone northwards into Manyaleti. Now I believe Aubrey says he did check the hyena den earlier already, but there was no sign of anything. I'm just going to give it one last check, because you never know. Maybe now with the sun getting up a little bit, we might have a situation where these hyenas are starting to come out. It's actually quite pretty on our right hand side here. I'm going to try and find a gap where Senzo will be able to show you this. But it's a little cloudy and there's a bit of sun, and the sun is forming these beautiful little rays. Oh no, it's too treed here. I can't get a nice gap in order to show you. Hold on, I'm just trying to see if I can find a nice gap in the trees here that we can actually see the sun's rays coming down. Maybe from here, Sens. Let's see. It might not be great. Oh no, we're gonna just do a little bit of it anyway, because it's unfortunately, and it's not very good, but there is a few rays that are kind of just bursting through the clouds a little bit, and as Craig always tells me, it's the fingers of God is apparently the name for this. And you can see there, that's what I'm talking about, those little rays that are coming down and moving towards the horizon. It's actually quite pretty when you get that in the early mornings, and even in late afternoons we sometimes get it. Unfortunately, the spot where we are is not ideal. We've got about 40 million trees between us and those rays of light that are coming down through the clouds. So no sun just yet. I'm sure it will come. Those clouds don't look exactly thick, do they? There's lots of holes being poked in by the sunshine, and I'm sure we will see these clouds moving on. And we here like to kind of say that they get burnt off. It's not, of course, that they do get burnt off. It's just that, as the sun rises and winds get up, so they get moved off and it doesn't look thick enough to settle for the whole day. Now, last night there was a lion that was roaring at some point again. I thought so from the morning. We heard it early in the morning yesterday, and there was definitely a lion roaring again last night, but where, I'm not quite sure. And it seems as though the guys are battling to find any sort of sign of them, but I'm 100% sure that there is a lion somewhere on Buffelshoek, Torchwood area. Hopefully it's come our way, and hopefully it's decided to plonk itself down somewhere on Djuma. That would be very, very kind of it, given that we have not seen a lion in quite some time. Becca Sue, you're wondering what is one of the hardest animals to track? Well, I think it depends on what we define as trackable animals, because certain animals are very difficult to track just from a point of view that they're shy, they're reclusive, they're also nocturnal, and so you might be able to track them successfully towards a termite mound or a burrow, and then they go down and there's not really much you can do there. So it depends on what we're talking about. I mean, animals that we track regularly, the hardest is the leopard. I mean, that's why it's tested. It's why it's, when you become a senior tracker, it's the animal that you need to trail in order to get that qualification. So it's a difficult animal to track. In terms of hard tracks to follow, and in terms of hard tracks to find, something like a wildcat or a caracal would be near impossible, I would imagine, to follow those. Things like hyenas can be quite tough to track as well. They generally, because there's just so many of them around, following a single hyena around its nightly activities would be quite interesting. 1, 2, you'd probably be walking the entire day just to kind of cover those tracks. So it depends on what we kind of quantify as difficult to track, but theoretically the hardest one is leopard, just because of it's single on its own. Lions generally are in groups together, so they generally leave nice big signs for you. Also, a male lion track is rather large in comparison to a small little dainty female leopard track, and so leopards are the ones that are tested because of their sort of danger factor in there as well when tracking them. So that's really kind of how it all works. For me, I don't know. I mean, I've tracked lots of other things and find that things like trapdoor spiders and certain insects tracks are almost invisible for me. I really struggle with those. So I mean, these trapdoor spiders are super difficult to try and identify and try and work out. So I know some guys have it, but Steph and I were talking about this the other day, and how to spot that actual little trapdoor, it takes a lot of kind of patience and a lot of practice until you get it right. So I think it's, like I say, it just depends. I mean, it depends on what we're trying to kind of achieve with our tracking. But at this stage, I would say that of the animals, and of the bigger animals, it would be leopard would be the hardest of them to try and get. Unfortunately, hyena den looks very quiet this morning. Not the amount of chaos like we saw a few days ago. It seems as though everybody is having a little morning lie-in, and why not? Maybe it was a long Thursday night. Here in South Africa, we have a thing called Phuza Thursday. Now, Phuza Thursday is basically an excuse for students to go out and drink copious amounts of apple juice and have a good time on a Thursday night. It tends to be the student nights at some of these places where people go, and so the name has come along. And Phuza basically is a local word for drinking, and so Drinking Thursday is where the name came along. Now, that maybe is what our hyenas were busy with on Thursday night, because it seems all quiet at the den sites, not even a peep coming from anybody. Now, of course, that's not the case. I'm just joking around. It's probably just due to the fact that the overcast weather might mean the adults are still busy looking around for food, and still looking around for some sort of item to rob or to hunt or to do whatever with, and so there might be a little bit of a while until they come back. It might pay dividends to come back here later in the morning drive when maybe the sun breaks a little bit. We might find the hyenas starting to come back then and the little ones coming out. Also on a cold overcast weather like this, I suppose it must be much nicer to be inside a termite mound where it's insulated, warm and really quite nice. Right, now I'm going to meander along, go check, I think, towards Sydney's Dam, down the western boundary. While I do that, I believe Scotty D, the bearded warrior of the Masai Mara, has got something special to show you.
Hello everyone, and is this not a wonderful, wonderful sight? The Musketeer Coalition on the move, and they are in and amongst many, many wildebeest. I think they're just going about their morning business. I don't think they're hugely hungry, but if they do see any weaknesses amongst this herd, they will take the opportunity. For now, though, I think they're just strolling about, possibly looking for a lady, maybe on their way to do some scent marking. We've been with them for about 5 minutes, and they haven't shown much intent on trying to catch any wildebeest just yet. And they did have a good meal yesterday morning. They managed to catch a topi, so that would still be keeping them satisfied for the time being. Wonderful. My name's Scott. I'm teamed up with Jahawi on camera, and it's great to have you on board. I hope you've been having fun with Tristan, and I'm not sure if you've jumped onto Taylor's vehicle just yet this morning. I'm having some issues with my radio, so it's hard to get updates from Louise, who is directing the show from all the way down in South Africa. So, good prospects. Wonderful to have these boys on the move. And I'm hoping Taylor comes and joins us here. She's not far away, and it'll be wonderful to just show you guys some two shots and some different perspectives if we do both combine forces in one place. And of course, if these guys do decide to do some hunting, and Louise, if you just tell Taylor to head east along the riverbed from the balloon crossing, she'll find us. There's no signal here to drop a pin on WhatsApp, sadly. We cannot use technology to assist us. We had the most incredible sunrise this morning. Those clouds in the background were lit up like a fire. It was quite a magical scene. Sadly, though, that was before 6:30, before we went live. I love the sound of all the gnu's grunting and snorting, expressing their disgust that these cheetah are bothering them this morning. What's been absolutely fascinating over the last few weeks is what a small area these guys have started kind of hanging out in. They've been in this general area for, I'd say, about 2 or 3 weeks, and even before I went on a 1-week break, I would guess about 2 or 3 weeks they've been hanging out in this general area, where ordinarily the first few months we spent with them, they moved huge distances, usually every night. And often guides, when we would tell them where they are, excuse me, in the morning, they almost wouldn't believe how far they've moved, whereas now they seem to have found a happy place. And interestingly, the male, who used to be dominant here, has occupied the area where they used to spend more time further north in the surrounding conservancies. It's time for a break, it appears. Now, even though they're not too far from where we saw them yesterday, it's not to say they haven't moved around a fair amount between now and then. It's impossible to say because we weren't with them. So it'll be interesting to see how long it takes before they rest up completely for the day. Hopefully it won't be soon. And Taylor hasn't managed to find us yet, but she has found something else. Feline.
Well, Johnny, you know I keep getting distracted and I can't focus. We have stumbled across a pride of lions that are sitting up, which is quite nice. Now, it's a bit deceiving. So far, I've seen 2 adult lionesses, and then there's a couple of sub-adults too. Hopefully we'll get a better view of them in a minute. They have been resting up in this lugger, which is quite nice, hiding themselves. And I'm just trying to see, she's very focused. You can see she's staring at something. I think she's seen the topi that are very far away from us, just up on the horizon actually. A little bit south of us, and we will eventually get across to where Scott is. We'll just stop and have a very quick look. It's nice to have a bit of variety, and it's nice to get to know all the characters on the side. So that's what she is looking at. It's very, very far away, and the topi already look particularly suspicious, don't you think? Topi, don't come down here. You'll find yourself in a bit of trouble. Looks like there's a youngster too. Let me reposition for us. Let's see if we can get a better view. I can see some of the sub-adults walking out now. I'll just go around. I'll try and sort of navigate into a better spot. My goodness, I don't know why she's looking this way. There's an abundance of game on sort of the northern horizon, but I will show you that in a minute. Oh, there's another lioness. 3 lionesses. Just stop like this just for the minute. Oh goodness, the little ones I think are starting to play. It's a bit difficult to try and see them all in this thick stuff. So there's another adult lioness and one of the youngsters. 1, 2, and then I thought I saw a flash of another one. It's supposed to be about 3 or 4 youngsters. Yeah, they look to be about maybe between 7 and 9 months old, somewhere around there. They're not particularly big, but they're not too small either. Maybe even a little bit younger than that. We'll see when they come out of the long grass and come a bit closer towards us. But it is, of course, very nice to see lions. I love seeing them. I want to see them every single day. They are my favorite of the big cats, as I always tell you. And it looks like that little one had actually seen all the antelope and things that are up on the horizon, but you're a bit too little to go and hunt, but it's nice to show a bit of interest. They might also just be watching the hot air balloons that are floating by this morning. Isn't that beautiful? Sorry for going so quiet there. I was just listening to a question. Right, I believe we have a new viewer who has joined us today. Lee Boy, hello and welcome. It's very exciting to have you on board. I hope you become addicted like the rest of us. It's a good kind of addiction, though. And now your question is, are they different? I think I heard it correctly, so it broke up quite a bit. It was something to do with, are they different males or are they the same males that move around in between the prides? Is that what you said, Louis? Something along those lines? I do apologize. It's just some serious comms break-up here, so I'm trying my best to decipher what is being said. Oh, there we go. Does each pride have the same or different males in charge? Here we go. I heard you all perfectly there. So, Lee Boy, it depends. Typically, male lions will traverse an area and they'll have it as their territory. So they'll mark and defend it. And within that territory, it's quite big. They'll have different prides within their space. So you might find, depending on the size of the coalition of males, if it's a bigger group, obviously there's more of them. They can travel a little bit further. And then that means that they'll have more prides, more females within their territory. So I would say an average amount of prides that a particular group of males will tend to is around maybe 3 or 4 different prides, maybe even a little bit less in this area, though even the lionesses have huge home ranges. There is just so much space around here. And then, of course, those boys will obviously constantly go round and round and round, declaring their territory, making sure that they know other males coming through. But there's constant threat amongst the prides of lions. And the females want the biggest and strongest males in that area. And they also don't want to change over too often because, say, if a new group of males that didn't sire these cubs come through and try and take over, they'll actually kill these little ones. And they don't want to invest any of their time raising raising, well, offspring that's not theirs really, and genetics, and then it will encourage the females to come back into estrus again. It's a very, very tough process. It's not particularly nice. You see that the females are horribly stressed when a pride takeover happens, especially when there are young cubs around, because they know exactly what's happening. So I'm so sorry, I've got a little tickle in my throat and I'm struggling to pronounce certain words. Manu, do you want to go to the other side and see if we can get those cubs playing? Okay, let's reposition one more time. Because I think if we, excuse me, I think if we go across, we might get a better view, because there seems to be one or two youngsters that are quite excited this morning to play around. I'm not sure which coalition of males would be around in this area. I haven't spent too much time in the reserve. Well, I've spent quite a bit of time in the southern section around the Purungat Bridge. That's my favorite area. It is so beautiful around Silas Camp. So Scott has said he's going to show me the ropes up in this section. This is his territory. He loves it. It's where the Chitwa are. I don't think we're very far from Scott. You should actually tell Scott to sit quietly and see if he can hear me talking. Might work. That might be how we find each other today. So I think he's just that way. So once we finish up here at these lines, we'll head towards him. Oh, these cats have been walking up and down, up and down. Okay, we'll get a nice view now. Right, where are they? They're hidden in the grass. There we go. I see a sneaky little cat trying to hide away from me. I think this was the one that was playing with the leaves just now. There we go. It's our very playful cat. Now, good morning, Ken. A great question from you today, wondering if it's the males that do most of the hunting. It's pretty much even. So there's a big misconception, an old wives' tale, that male lions don't hunt. And for those of you who have been watching the show or had the privilege of going on safari and being taken about by an experienced safari guide, you'll know that this is of course not true. Male lions hunt just as much as the females and are much stronger than the girls too, so they can actually take down bigger prey, often with less of them. Unlike the females, they need a couple more members in the pride to help bring down a buffalo. So just to go into it a little bit, we'll quickly just recap, seeing as we've got a couple new viewers joining us today. Once the male lions in a pride, so say these youngsters, if it is a male, once he reaches about 2.5, 3 years old, sometimes even a little bit later, 3.5, he's not going to be tolerated by the dominant males, by essentially their fathers, and they'll be chased out. They'll have to go and live on their own, and they might go off by themselves, or if the other male cubs of a similar age, they all leave together. Essentially, you want to leave with a few others and form a coalition from the beginning. You've already got an established bond for the first few years of your life. You've got great relationships there, and the more sort of time you invest in a relationship within lions, the same with people, the better you'll get along, the better you'll hunt, you'll know each other inside out. So they go off. They've got to hunt for themselves now. For the next couple of years, they're going to live in and amongst male lions' territories and keep out of the way, because if they get caught, they're either going to get chased out and run the risk of being injured, or they're going to get killed if they come across the wrong males. So it's a very tough life. So they haven't got the females hunting for them anymore. So they have to hunt. And that time is actually very important for those male lions. It's when they really sort of hone in on their hunting skills. The girls will stay with their mothers for pretty much most of their life, unless the pride gets particularly big. Then sometimes the pride breaks up. So yes, and males hunt just as much as the girls. When the boys aren't around and they're doing territorial patrols and they're feeling a bit hungry, of course they're going to try and catch something. Otherwise, if they pop past a pride and they're on a kill, they'll feed on it. They'll probably try and dominate over the carcass, in fact. But that's not always the case. And one of the things that was really cool that I saw in South Africa in the Sabi Sand, where Tristan is driving, but in the southern sectors, was the Charleston males. It was one Charleston male, I think it was the one with the tooth there. He's got kicked in the face by a giraffe, and he brought down a fully grown buffalo bull all by himself. It was during the drought, so the buffalo was slightly weakened. However, that's still impressive. There we go. Now they're going to play again. Don't play behind the bushes. Come and run here. Come play out in the nice grass. This is typical of lion cubs, though. They'll want to play in and amongst the thickets. Come on. I'm actually thinking they might be a little bit younger. Maybe they're around, I think maybe they're about 7 months old, 6, 7 months old. Okay, let me reposition again. So this is what we have to do. When the animals move, we've got to move too. I was hoping that we're actually going to go on a bit of a walkabout and go and stalk something, but it seems as though they don't seem to be interested at the moment. They're not too hungry. We'll have one last look. There's one lioness through there, so there's 3 lionesses in this pride. It's a decent sized pride. It's quite nice. Okay, but I think we're going to say goodbye to these lions. It was a lovely sighting, but I want to head towards Scott and the cheetah in case they get up to something, and that's exactly what we're going to do. Is I'm going to send you across to the cheetah man of Africa.
Well, really looking forward to Taylor joining us in the sighting. Oh, this individual thought it was time to now call the rest of the coalition. They've been spending a lot of time sniffing around a gardenia bush here. Isn't this cool? It's so close. Isn't it such an interesting call? And I think they could be smelling a female here. They've spent a large amount of time in this area sniffing about. There's something, definitely, either the sense of a female or possibly a male. There's something that's caught their attention. That funny wow noise you can hear, some crowned cranes that have decided to come in and help the neighborhood watch by letting off their alarm call. It's an interesting bird. I was surprised the first time I heard that they do alarm call at big cats, but they're quite well known for it, a number of the cranes. Very, very pretty. 2 of possibly the Mara's prettiest subjects, both the crane and the cheetah. He's doing one final scent mark, and then they're going to move on. And for those of you who don't know, my one wish that I would love to fulfill before I leave here in just under 2 weeks and head back to Djuma would be to see these 5 boys interact with another cheetah, be it male or female. And maybe this morning we will get lucky. There have been a lot of cheetah in this general area. Yesterday there was both a male and a female not far away from these 5. I'm not sure where they've ended up. But it seems like the cheetah are really enjoying this part of the Mara Reserve at the moment. There's a high density of them, which is making our lives quite wonderful. Who knows, maybe Taylor will find another cheetah on her way here. She's not far away, she's just to the west of us. Oh, please may this not be the end of your activities until the evening. Oh no, it was just one that was lying down. I'm going to do a big leapfrog ahead to the next gardenia tree where I'm almost certain they're going to head to. They may get distracted with 1 or 2 other bushes along the way there. Just saying hello to some Safari Live fans that we had a chat to on the way in. And they asked for any intelligence, and we told them to come into this general area, so I'm glad they've also got lucky to enjoy this sighting with us. Hello, Becca. You'd like to know if cheetah will fight if they come across one another. And, well, yes, male cheetah will definitely fight with other male cheetah. They see one another as competition. So, yes, there'll definitely be a fight. I mean, in this case, if I was a single male and I saw these 5 heading towards me, I would hit the high road without putting up a fight. So you may well see a cheetah running faster than it's ever run before if it sees these guys. And the same actually goes for female cheetah. If a female cheetah is not in season and possibly a little bit nervous of any males, they too will run. So yes, they will fight, but one important thing to remember with every single species out here, and probably, I think it's fair to say, around the world, is that confrontation is, physical confrontation is very, very seldom. Not like us humans. We like fighting, animals typically don't. So even though they may have misunderstandings or disagreements, they will usually be verbal or visual. They'll be standing, making one another look as proud and big as possible, shouting at one another, but not necessarily coming to blows. And in all of my years in multiple African wilderness areas, I've very, very seldom seen any serious fights between, be it predators, intraspecies, even herbivores will compete with one another for females. It's not something that you see very often. So there are a few other vehicles enjoying the sightseeing with us. Bear with us as the cheetah head behind them, but they are, I'm almost certain, going to come up to this bush that you can see here. And then we'll be in prime position. There we go. Well, just to fill you in a bit more about the other cheetah that were seen in this general area yesterday, one was called Kisiri, a female, and there was also another individual male, but sadly we didn't get a good enough look at him, nor did the researcher rather, to try and identify him. He was chased off by a male lion. I think it's Donna, you'd like to know if cheetah and lion have got different vocal cords, and yes, they do. That is why the cheetah aren't part of the Panthera genus or family. They have got their, unlike Panthera leo and Panthera pardus, these are Acinonyx jubatus. Everyone's got a slightly different way of pronouncing that. But yes, their vocal cords are different. They cannot generate noises as loud and as deep as the roar of a lion or the soar of a leopard. So yes, they do indeed have different vocal cords, different claws as well. So quite a few interesting, unique features that the cheetah have that distinguish them from their other big cats, the lion and the leopard. Now this is quite a good tree for one to possibly climb up. So be ready for that. One of them could spring up at any moment, perch themselves on top of this bush. Now you can see they're sniffing the ground very, very intently. And earlier on, they were actually even rolling around in whatever scent they were smelling. So there's something that's really got these guys' attention. And ordinarily, females will only scent mark to display that they are in season when they are coming into season. So females, you'll very seldomly see scent mark unless they are giving the men in the area a message as to what is going on. Having said that, it could be the sense of a male that's really exciting them. But very, very difficult for us to know. Sadly, none of them appear to be interested in taking up my offer to jump up into this tree. Hi, Becca, you'd like to know how will these boys decide who gets to mate with a female in season if they were to be so lucky to come across one? And it's difficult to say exactly what's going to happen. There's definitely going to be fighting amongst themselves for the female. What can happen and what I've seen happen is that a female will actually allow one male to mate, and while one male's on top of her mating, another male will slide in between and then take over. So it's quite a spectacle to behold. And that's just with a coalition of 2 males. I mean, all 5 of these guys could be essentially taking turns with mating with her. It's not to say that will happen, but there is a possibility that that could happen. If not 5, maybe 2 or 3 of the most dominant will take turns. And that is why I am so desperate to see these guys come across a female in the next few weeks, because it will be absolutely fascinating to see what happens. Again, Becca, you know, with these kinds of questions, what you always have to remember is that, just like us as humans, if you were to ask, what would happen if you put 5 boys in one room with a girl? Well, you don't know. You don't know which boy is going to come out on top. You don't know if the girl might like 2 of them and, you know, choose one day and one the next. So often try and, you know, when we're thinking about animals, ask yourselves, what would happen in a similar situation with us humans? And you'll soon realize that there's no definitive answer that you know will happen in any given scenario. There's usually a multiple of options. It looks like they're having some playtime, chasing one another around just through thick bush, and it's probably out of view. But good to see them with a little bit of a spring in their step. Wonderful. Time to loop ahead once again. So I think we need to say hello to our Safari Live fans, give them their 5 seconds of fame quickly. Morning. You happy you came into this area?
Very.
Good. Smile, you're on camera. We live. Cool. Enjoy. We'll see you later. Shame it. I don't think he was expecting to get the camera shoved in his face, but it's nice just to try and spend a time with any Safari Live followers when they're out in the field. And they've often got very nice things to say about what we do, so the least we can do is spend some time with them. Very good. Well, we're going to get into position for the next approach of the cheetah, and while we do that, we're going to be sending you back to Tristan in Djuma.
Well, Scotty D and you and your cheetah, I'm very jealous. I get very kind of jealous of the fact that you get to follow those 5 and get to look after them, and I'm glad that you also gave some of the fans a moment of fame, which is nice of you. So it's just quickly checking. There's some elephant tracks coming down the road here, but they're not very fresh at all. There's hyenas on top of them, there's various other animals as well, so unfortunately we're going to not be able to find this elephant at all. I think it's probably a bull elephant that maybe was following that herd that we saw the tracks for earlier. Maybe that's why we're not going to find it, is because it's 3-4 days old. That's why. And other than that, it's quiet. There's been a few good birds around. We saw what looked like a melanistic Jacobin cuckoo, which is always nice to see, although it did have white on the wings, so can't be 100% sure. Then what else did we have? We had some little button quails that ran across the road. We had some crombecs, long-billed crombecs. But of course these things are all very difficult to put onto a camera. They all kind of, particularly the crombecs, I find them one of the hardest to get on camera because they just bounce around all over the place. They don't sit still for more than a second, and it makes it quite difficult. So I'm surprised that we can keep a Taylor on a vehicle for as long as we do. And she's normally like a little crombec, because she's up and down and all over the place, particularly if she's had her Red Bulls like she does sometimes, her energy drinks. Then she gets a little bit bouncy and much like a little rubber ball, and she kind of bounces around camp all over the place. But seems as though when she gets into a vehicle we can at least keep her there for 3 hours, which is pretty good. Right, new road, you have not delivered in quite some time. It's time for the new road to give us something special. I think it's that time of the year that the new road is going to give us something good. It's been, like I say, a while. When we first opened this road we had some great sightings. We had the Angama Pride, we had a few times, we had Shadow quite a few times, we had Tingy around here, so lots of little things going on, and then now it's just kind of quietened down. I wonder if it's because with the lack of water in this western sector, it's a little bit difficult for animals to find water, and so they're not hanging around here nearly as much as they were. Maybe they've now shifted a little bit more towards Red Dam, and so that they can find water in that area and still, you know, kind of move around and then go back to that section. That's what I think anyway. DD1, this is a very interesting question. You want to know if we ever use drones to track animals. Now, DD1, no, not necessarily tracking, but we do have a drone and we do fly it sometimes to follow animals if we can't follow them. So things like wild dogs, also just to get an aerial view of things like elephant and various other things. But there is a school of thought that we are going to try at some point, which is with drones, and to try and fit them with thermal cameras and various other things and see if we can actually use them in our tracking process to be able to find animals. I think it will be quite a useful tool, particularly here in the Sabi Sands where there is a bit of dense bush and sometimes you lose the tracks in these blocks. You can then at least be able to send the drone ahead of you and find them. The other thing about a drone is that it's not going to disturb the animal as much as if we are on foot. If we're on foot, then an animal, something like a leopard we're talking about more than anything else, I think. Leopards will kind of pop their heads up and often they'll move away from you, whereas with a drone they might be able to fly it up ahead and be able to spot that animal before you disturb it on foot, and you may be able to then get the vehicle there and view it. So it's a interesting kind of thing, and one that we are investigating. But at the moment, currently, no, we don't track animals with the drone. We just follow them once we've found them with the vehicles. Sometimes the drone will go up just to get a sort of bird's eye view, and it's particularly good for things like wild dogs. Wild dogs are so epic from a drone because we can follow their running patterns and their hunting strategies, and we can't keep up in a vehicle at all when they're doing that. But with the drone, it's really amazing just to watch how these guys move around, or how these dogs move around, and how they chase various prey items. It's absolutely fascinating. So we do use it for that, and I suppose tracking could be the way that you could call it, that we track them as they move. But in terms of actually trying to find the animals, no, not really, not at the moment anyway. And actually, it is talking about drones. I believe Sebastian and Fergus, our two cam-ops, are busy doing drone courses in the next few days. So the two of them are both going to be down in various parts of South Africa to do their drone courses. So good luck, gentlemen. I'm sure that both of you will do just fine and will be easily able to do what you need to do and be able to fly those drones. I'm pretty sure of it. I know Seb has flown drones and does kind of know the whole deal, but I think he's just going to go get certified because you need a little qualification to be able to fly drones and to be a drone pilot in South Africa. And so I think the both of them are going in order to be able to fly the drones here at Safari Live, and also just for themselves. So like I say, good luck, boys. I hope that it goes well, and I hope that you guys are having a good leave, both of you. I know Seb is back in South Africa. I'm sure he's really excited to see Shan and Casey again, and which is his wife and daughter, for those of you who don't know. And then I'm sure Ferg is also just happy to also be on leave for a little bit as well. So right, now enough about cam-ops and them. Let's just try and get back into the bush a little bit and what's going on. I haven't really been looking around. Nina, you're asking what insects I'm most looking forward to tracking. Interesting. I don't know. I think there's all kinds of different insects to kind of work out, to track and to see. I think watching some of the wasps go about their business, so building their little nests, and if you've ever tried to see how a wasp builds its nest, often what it will do is it will basically excavate out, and it will then have a situation. There's a beautiful woodpecker over there, and so we'll watch the woodpecker while I talk about these things. So, Sense, can you see it, or did it fly away? Oh, it flew away. Okay, well, we're not going to talk about it then as we're sitting here. But the wasps, some of them will have particles of soil that they kind of excavate out, and then they'll go and try and find a little stone that is exactly the same as what that hole is. So they try and match the stone, and then they'll blend it in with little particles of soil, and it is pretty much impossible to actually see where those holes are. So things like that would be super interesting. Tracking the dung beetles is always fun, as you look for their the sort of mark where they've rolled their ball, and for their legs and all kinds of things like that. Tracking scorpions is always quite nice. So lots of things. I think it depends on what you're looking for and the processes that you're trying to find, but I think any sort of insect tracking and signs of insects are always fairly interesting and really cool to watch. So I actually the other day got fairly lucky in that I found some moth eggs that were busy hatching. It was so cool to watch these little caterpillars coming out of the sort of eggs and moving around and trying to sort of find their way in the world. And you find that they came out and they eat a little bit of their egg, and then once they're out, they'll actually go back to the eggs and eat them again. It's almost like their first meal that allows them to be able to then get the nutrients needed to move off to the plant that they need to be on in order to feed. But it was amazing to watch. I think I took a video of it, so I might try and find it. I'll look for it now and see if I can maybe find the video of the little ones trying to come out of their eggs. Now I'm going to carry on towards Treehouse and Twin Dams and go and see what's happening down that side of the world. While I do that, let's go back to Scotty D, who I think is amongst all the wildebeest of the Mara.
Well, not much has changed here. The boys are still casually going about their morning business, going from bush to bush, scent marking. Oh, up you go. And they clearly have an audience of wildebeest keeping a beady eye on them. Remarkable scenes here. And what's interesting is that if you're driving past this area, judging by the general relaxed mood of all the wildebeest and zebra, you wouldn't expect there to be 5 cheetah nearby. So it's something I always try and think about and remember when looking for these guys. You could drive straight past a large herd of wildebeest, seemingly relaxed, with these 5 boys very nearby. This guy seems like he's going to get himself into a bit of a funny situation. Let's wait and see how deep he manages to climb into this bush. I'm not sure where Taylor is. I thought she was coming to join us here, but there's no cell phone network, so I can't get a hold of her, and our new radio system makes it tricky for us to chat with one another. We're trying a new radio system, for those of you who do not know, where basically the directors in either the Mara or Djuma can chat to one another, or chat to us from either of the control rooms. So at the moment we are being directed through a radio by Louise, who's all the way in South Africa, which is quite fascinating, an incredible technology, but it's a new system and we are finding that there are some teething issues. So once we get it sorted out, it'll be absolutely incredible, but for now it's causing us a little bit of a headache. But that is the nature of this industry. With all the technological advancements and changes that we go through, we kind of take 3 steps forward and 2 steps back a lot of the time as we make changes. Oh, marvelous. Well, Louise has chatted with Taylor to find out what's going on, and apparently she's slowly bumbling her way in this direction. I just fear that she doesn't know exactly where we are, so I don't know, because I haven't been able to explain clearly. But Lou, if you just tell her we're on the southern side of the Hamakop Lugger that runs towards the balloon crossing, so if she just heads east on the northern bank of the Lugger. The northern bank of the Lugger that runs from Hamakop to the balloon crossing. She headed towards the balloon crossing, I headed towards Hamakop, and the cheetah were in between us. So hopefully it shouldn't take her too long to get here. Okay, let's reposition. I'm not giving Jahawi the best angles to make pretty pictures here. So, even though they don't seem too hungry this evening, they may well, this morning, they may well have a bit more of an appetite this evening. In general, I found they make a kill every 24 to 36 hours. So it's 24 hours now since their last kill, just under. They made a kill a little bit later in the morning yesterday. But yeah, anywhere from now up until this evening, if they get a good opportunity, they may well go for it. I like to try and do big loops ahead rather than lots of small loops. Because if everyone was to do hundreds of little loops, it would just be a never-ending rally of cars. Hi, Anna Marie, you'd like to know, why do these wildebeest not run away when they see the cheetah? And I guess, you know, they know that there could be another predator running wherever they decide to run to. So by running off blindly away from one predator, you could run slap bang into another. So I think, you know, the main theory is that once they've got an eye on their predators, it becomes very, very difficult for those predators to succeed in catching them and killing them. Most predators rely on the elements of surprise. It's not the case with these 5, though. They don't rely on the elements of surprise because there's 5 of them. So they're a bit of a unique scenario. They're very, very effective. But even still, you know, the wildebeest, once they know who their threats are, it becomes a lot easier for them to manage them. Same as us as humans, I guess. If you know who your competition is, you can deal with it. If you don't, it becomes tricky. Now, what is going to happen here? They've all spread out quite considerably at the moment. And are they going to launch an attack? Because once they've spread out like this, if one of them surges in, it may push the rest of the herd into a favorable position for the others to join in. And this is definitely the most they've split up since we've spent time with them this morning. They've created a bit of a bullhorn formation, which was a famous war method used by Shaka Zulu. They are looking quite focused now. Have they spotted a youngster or somebody that they think they can take down in this herd? There definitely seems to be a change in tone here. This one that's coming closest to us is looking the most likely to launch an attack at this stage, I think. It's kind of just lowering its body down to the ground. Here we go, straight in front of our vehicle. Come on, boy. Come on. Surprise us. Now, there are cheetah spread out over a very, very large distance, and this could well create a favorable situation for them to get a youngster out of this herd. Oh, please don't run out of frame. Now, is this playful or is it more serious? It's the only cheetah that's having a go for now, or is it maybe just wanting to get through this stream of wildebeest? I'm keeping an eye on the other cheetah. All of them are relaxed for now, so just stay on that one, Jar. And if another one decides to launch an attack or get involved, I'll be sure to let you know. This is looking promising. They may be thinking about starting to work this herd. Well, the one is definitely. But we need more. We need more than just one. Come on, what's going to happen next? We need to move a little bit closer. Hold on, everyone. No, it seems like whatever chance they did have has now faded off. The rest of the cheats are all kind of looking in bemused, like bemused spectators. I'm not sure why they're not getting a little bit more involved. But I guess it's simply because they're not too hungry, and they obviously can't see any wildebeest that are showing any slight faults. Not that they need one to show a fault to be able to hunt them, but it certainly would encourage them to take an easier opportunity with their already foolish belly from yesterday. Okay. Oh, awesome. Jawi spotted Taylor. Where is she? Oh, cool. She's made it. Wonderful. She's in a great spot, as you can see, taking photographs of those wildebeest stampeding past her. They're probably all blurry, her pictures. She battles to get her focus right, I find. Now I'm smiling and waving. She's got a decent lens on there, so she may be able to get some decent pics. I definitely wouldn't be able to get any of her from this distance. A wonderful scene. Very, very good. So this is a good example of how two vehicles can be useful in one sighting, because the animals move such big distances, and because, like now, the cheats have split up. She's on the other side, so if the action was to end up going towards her vehicle, we'd simply be able to cut to her, rather than being in a situation where we're having to try and snipe right on the end of the lens over huge distances. Wunderbar. What will the cheetah do next? Oh, I've just had a nice big yawn and stretch. It's like, excuse me, while I just slowly wake up here. I think we might need to load up a cup of coffee. Feeling a little bit tired this morning for some reason. Could have been because we were up a little bit later than normal last night. But who knows? We had a good time chatting last night with Manu and Taylor, who joined us at Camp Ol Shaiki, which is the camp we stay at on this side of the river when we're in Cheetah Land. So good to have them there. We had some delicious T-bone steaks for dinner last night, and chips, homemade potato chips, and some baby marrow with finely diced onions. Very nice. Very, very nice meal. Oh, my earpiece fell out, so I was wondering why Louise was giving me the silent treatment, but she wasn't. She's been trying to talk to me, but I haven't been able to hear anything. So now that I know we need to send you across to Taylor, off you go.
Hello again, everybody. How funny is that? Isn't that an amazing two-shot? Some cheetah. Scott better behave in the car now. Hopefully he realizes that he's on camera. And then, of course, wildebeest streaming behind him. My original plan was to actually try and sneak up and stalk Scott failed miserably, because when I heard that the cheetah were on the move and they looked like they were going to hunt, I very, very quickly raced and changed my mind. Now, Scott, I'm a bit sad that you've stolen my own joke. So the reason why Scott said that my pictures are all blurry is because actually, I think it was from Tristan. Actually, I didn't even do it. This was Tristan's joke yesterday. He said to me that, because, you know, I've had this problem with my eyes, the bugs got me. Basically, what he'd said was that my eyesight is kind of like how my pictures turn out, slightly out of focus. Ah, Tristan, Scott, you guys are so funny. It's so nice working with the two of you. It really is like, I cannot tell you how it feels like home. It's like I haven't even left home. I think that's maybe why I don't get homesick too often, is because it's like I'm being surrounded by my brothers anyway in this team, which is quite cool. But they're up and they're on the move. This is only my second time seeing the Musketeers. How great is that? The first time that I saw them, I think I put them on screen for a whole of 5 minutes, and then it started bucketing down with rain, and we sat in the rain for about 3 or 4 hours. It was horrific. It was an interesting evening, so I'm quite excited to learn a lot more about these boys. So if you have any very cool, interesting information about them, I'd really appreciate it. You can hashtag Safari Live, like where they've come from. I know that they did arrive in the Masai Mara National Reserve, I think it was last year, December, if I'm not mistaken. That's really all I know about them for now. But I am looking forward to learning about them. And I was actually just telling Manu that I've only ever heard a cheetah vocalize once. Can you believe that? I've spent time with them in the Sabi sand, but I have never seen them in such a large coalition. Typically it was just a male on his own or a female on her own, so they were particularly silent. So I'm actually excited to hear the different types of vocalizations that they can make. I've watched lots of video footage, but it's not the same as hearing it firsthand. So we're sort of just watching at the moment. I mean, the wildebeest, the topi, the zebra, and the Thompson's gazelle, and everything else that was running around here is now scattered. So they might have to do a bit of maneuvering around and repositioning and just rethinking their plot if they are going to hunt, because at the moment they don't look like they've got a very good chance. But let's move up a little bit further. There's Scott's also repositioning, so why don't we do exactly the same thing? I'd like to get a bit closer to these cheetah. We're very far away. But now that they're not sort of hunting, they're relatively flat, we can move in. Now, Hilton, you're wondering if a wildebeest will overcharge a cheetah? Most certainly. As you know, very much like what buffalo will do, that herd sort of mentality. If say a cheetah's got a wildebeest and there's a huge herd, they might actually charge towards it, and you know, it can be quite daunting for those cheetah. They're not big, they're not strong. They don't want to unnecessarily find themselves in a conflict situation where they could potentially injure themselves. So they will, but you know, with a wildebeest, I reckon if you just stand your ground and maybe jump forward, they go, oh no, I'm not brave anymore, and then run away. But even an impala will turn around and try and charge a predator if need be. Warthogs actually do it the best for their size. I've seen warthogs chase leopards around, which is pretty amazing to see. So they will. They just need to maybe stand together. I'm just trying to get where's the sun? The sun's hidden. I'm trying to find it amongst the clouds here. I forgot where east was for a minute. Let's go around. Just checking to make sure that there isn't any prey that could potentially come this way. I don't want to obviously interfere in the hunts at all. I'm going to stop like this because there's quite a few vehicles, so we don't really want to get them in frame. But I'm sure everyone's very excited. Scott and I are particularly lucky that we're able to off-road. I think out of everybody here, everybody's having to sit on the outskirts and view with their binoculars, and we can just drive where we want. So we'll try and be respectful of everybody's views, but of course we want to get a good shot too. How many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yay! Oh, this is great. I really am so excited. I can't wait. And, you know, I would love to see Imani as well. That's another cheetah that I'd like to see. Jamie has told me the most magnificent stories about her. So I'm quite keen to go and see them too. Wonderful. This is awesome. Well, we're not going to go anywhere. I think it's going to be quite exciting this morning. Scott and I tag teaming the cheetah. But let's go all the way back across to South Africa. I'm not sure if it's sunny there or not today. And Tristan is doing a little bit of tracking.
I am indeed, Taylor. So we are having a bit of tracking exercise, and as you can see there in the tire tracks is a nice little paw print. So there's tiny little toes there and 3 very small lobes. Now this is a track for Shadow's little cub. That's who I think, at least, because there's tracks for Shadow here as well, so both female and the cub together walking around in this area. Now they've been all over the place here. They've been walking up and down everywhere. There was just tracks all over there, so I don't know where exactly they are, but the tracks are nice and fresh. We know that this cub was seen last night on Little Gari and has come up this way, so we're going to try our very, very best. You can see they just come up the road all the way along, and those little tracks, I can tell you, are tiny, tiny, tiny. They're probably only like about the tip of my finger, so if I had to look at my finger, they're probably only about that long in total. So they've got very, 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 very small little tracks, and unfortunately it seems as though they've been bouncing around everywhere. Now, Treehouse Dam itself, I didn't see anything. I didn't find any sign of them at the dam, but we are right next to it, so I'm a little bit kind of interested to see where they go. I want to just check on the other side. I haven't had a chance to get onto the northern side of the dam yet, but they are heading towards the inflow. I checked Shabamu side. I didn't have any tracks coming out there, and so what I think may be the case here, because there's tracks going up and down, is that maybe, just maybe, they've got to kill somewhere here and they've gone for water and back. So that's maybe why we're seeing the tracks going in all different directions. I mean, it's just a theory. It might be completely wrong. They might have just been playing, and that's why they were running around all over the place. But they came down, the little cub came down this path towards the water, and Mom walked the other way behind us. So we're going to try and see if I can find them and see if they are somewhere here. I didn't want to walk too close to the water in case maybe, just maybe, they are sitting somewhere in this inflow and we can spot them. What is incredible is the amount of red-billed quellias we've got very close to the water here. It's absolutely awesome. There's hundreds of them. Now this is the biggest murmuration I've seen of them in this area. Look at that. It's just, the ground almost looks alive with birds as they're coming down to drink. So it's amazing actually to watch them drink. They come down and one by one they'll sort of land near the water. As you can see, they're going down. There they go towards the water, and you see one by one they come and drink, and then off they go again. How cool is this? And they're having a little bath while they do it, and then when one flies, kind of all of them go. It's because as soon as they hear a bird of making some sort of alarm call, they'll do this. And the bird that were making an alarm call was a drongo. They were busy having a little fight. In fact, it was very cool. Just now we watched mobbing, but look at that activity. You see how they just don't sit still for very long at all. Quick little bath, quick drink, and then off they go again. It's amazing. Such a frenzy of activity, and it's amazing because we generally don't see a lot of quellias here on Djuma itself. This has got to be the largest flock of quellias I've ever seen here at Djuma, but it is so cool to watch them. Now you can imagine this in the scale of 100 times what you're seeing now, just how chaotic it can be. And when you get big flocks like that, that's when you'll find the lesser spotted eagles, the Wahlberg's eagles, various goshawks and sparrowhawks will be in there, and they'll be all trying to grab these quellias as they come along. It is absolutely unbelievable. What I want to try and do though is I'm just going to change the angle, just because I think it will be really nice, because they're not going to go anywhere. They're going to all sit on the branches there, but I'm going to get nice and low down here, because what I think is going to be nice is that if we're around a low angle, maybe we can watch them all drinking from across the water here, and Senzo might be able to get a really nice shot of these guys kind of coming down to the water. It's not something we see every day, so we might as well try our luck a little bit and see if we can get this right. So they're all still just stacked up on the other side. Sens, this is going to be, I'm doing your artistic shot here for you. Here we go. So we're nice and low to the water, and so hopefully we're going to have a situation where all of these little ones are going to start coming down and come and check out the water and have a little drink. How cool. That's much better angle now. This is so cool. There are little reflections. It's a little bathing. Anna Marie, you say that quellias must have such a good GPS in their brains to coordinate their murmurations the way that they do. It is incredible. Their reactions must be incredible, because as soon as one turns, the rest turn. So it's almost like they be able to turn with each other, and there's a sort of reaction and reflex that is in that. So they do have amazing ability to be able to fly amongst each other, same as the starlings. Those big starling murmurations that you see in Europe are also just absolutely unbelievable. And it's amazing to me how they jostle almost at the water point. So lots of them come down, and there's lots of jostling that goes on, and they kind of all flitter about each other, and it's almost like you don't want to be the individual that's on the edge. You want to always be in the middle, and so they kind of hop around each other and just go crazy together. And you'll find what happens is that they go from water, and then they go up onto a little roosting point, and then they come down again, and it just goes back and forth until everybody's had a drink, and then the whole flock will go off and fly away. Now, my favorite Quelea experience ever was in the Kruger National Park area, right on the Lubombo Mountains. And there's a drainage line there called the Shinkilingan drainage, and you used to sit in there, and it was an east-west facing drainage line, and in the mornings, if you got in there just before the sun rose, you would sit in this drainage section, and these Quelias would come out of the mountains, out of the Lubombo Mountains, and the Lubombo Mountains have lots of places for Quelias to roost at night, and they would all start murmurating above this drainage line. And then as the sun broke, you would just hear this noise before you would see anything, just this noise. It almost sounded like a jet engine coming along, and then these thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of these birds would come swooping down this drainage line, and they would almost funnel straight above your head, and you would have just this sort of darkness of birds coming over with this sheer sound. It was absolutely unbelievable, and it was, I think, probably one of my favorite experiences, not in terms of an animal or anything like that, but just sitting and enjoying that sound and listening to that sound coming over your head, and watching just thousands of birds flying over, and then watching the lesser spotted eagles arrive, and the hunting taking place, and the Wahlberg's eagles and the goshawks and the sparrowhawks. It was just unbelievable to watch this whole thing as it unfolded. And like I said, that's a memory that I'll never forget. The sun rising and that kind of beautiful orange colors, and these Quelias just all over the place around you. It's absolutely unbelievable. Now you can see after a little bath, it's time to groom and preen, and so everybody's now preening, making sure they get their feathers in good condition before they start flying for the day. Absolutely incredible. Becca, you're wondering what the difference is between the males and the females. Now let me get my bird book out so I can show you this in a little bit more detail. Oh, there it is. If it was a snake, it would have bitten me. I was looking for my bird book, but it was hidden right below my eyes, and I didn't even notice, which is no good. So let me find them quickly in my book, and then I can show you the difference between these guys. Red-headed finch is not what we are looking for. We are looking for red-billed Quelias. Where are you, Quelias? Come on. There we go. Alright, so you're wondering which ones are the males and which ones are the females. Now, it's very difficult to tell males and females apart other than the beak color. So when they are not breeding, when the adult males are not breeding, you can see that their beak is still a bright red, whereas the female's beak is a sort of steely color. And the males do get a bit of yellow on the chest, but so do the females as well. But when they go into breeding coloration, then the males start to become very pretty. They get lots of sort of black on their face. They get a little bit of pink also that comes round. They get a lot of different sort of head patterns, but then when they're in full breeding colors, that's what they look like. So they look absolutely beautiful when they look like this. Now, there is another kind of Quelea that sometimes does occur on our eastern boundaries. In Mozambique, you see them, and there has been one or two recorded cases in this area, but these are very, very rare. So if we saw something like this, we'd be jumping for joy. But this is the one that we see and one that we're watching at the moment. So you can see lots of different colors for the males, but the female just lacks that red beak, and that's what makes it very easy to tell the difference between the two. Right, so I think they finished with their little drinking and their murmurating around water, so I think we're going to carry on as well. What I want to do is just quickly go up and check. There's a termite mound not far from here, so I want to go and have a look if maybe Shadow and Cub are not lurking in this area, and just have a double check that they're not lying in this drainage section, because I didn't see any tracks coming out on Shabamu and going, or Treehouse sort of west. So I wonder if maybe they didn't either cut across onto this northern side or go continue up the drainage line itself. Maybe we'll get lucky and we'll bump into this little leopard somewhere here with Mom. That would be nice. The thing is with it, when it's by itself, it's quite skittish, so it might hear the vehicle and just try and kind of trot off. If it's with Mom though, it will be a lot more chilled and we'll be able to get a really cool sighting out of it. So right, now I believe a lot of you are very excited at the prospect of Shadow and the little one. Well, I'm also excited about it. It would be very nice to catch up with both of them and see them both. Now I just got to double check that there's no tracks going up here. So whenever you kind of try and track an animal from a car like this, it's important that you check all of these little pathways that go, because those will help you with where you're going to go and where you're going to drive. Now generally you shouldn't really be tracking any animals from a vehicle, but given that I don't really have the ability to get off on foot and take you all with me, I've got to do a bit of tracking on the vehicle itself and just check around. Now the termite mound that I'm talking about is not far from where I am right now. There's a little kind of mound just up ahead, and I've always wanted to see a leopard on that mound. I have yet to see one on it, but I've always wanted to, and so maybe today is the day that we will find said leopard on said mound. Now I do apologize if you hear me sniffing every now and then. For some reason this morning, I don't know why, I'm almost like I've got allergies this morning. It's not very pleasant at all, so I do apologize about that. It's not something that I like to be doing while driving, but it does happen. Alas, no leopard on my mound just yet. We'll check the other side, but it looks as though my mound is barren and leopardless. Once again, it always seems to be barren and leopardless, but it seems like such a good mound. There's a nice big jackalberry on top of it. It seems like the perfect place for a leopard to sit and to be, but alas, no sign that I can actually see. No. Alright, well, we're going to turn around and go back to the dam and go and just check and double check and try and find where these tracks for Shadow actually go and see if we can pick up something for both of them. I have a funny feeling that they both kind of come in and out and that they might have something somewhere close by. I want to just check Weaver's Nest as well and double check that area. Just got to make sure I don't drive into a massive big leadwood stump, because that's behind me as well, so we don't want to drive into that. That won't go very well, and Rusty certainly won't be in great shape if we do hit that. Right, let's carry on. I'm going to just take a road and head up towards Shabamu Philemon's junction just to double check that side, see if the tracks are coming out there. If they're not, then I don't know, then I'm going to have to rethink my game plan a little bit and just see how we're going to sort this out. I was hoping to find them at the waterhole. That would have been quite nice, or at this inflow at least under one of these trees. That would have been the easiest way to do this, but we'll just have to now use the old-fashioned way and actually use our feet and tracks and try and find her. Let's see, where am I going to go up? I think we'll just take the pathways that are made by the animals up this way. Now the thing about Shadow is that I've followed her a few times as she's walked around these areas, and she's a funny leopard in that she doesn't actually spend that much time on the road itself. She seems to kind of get to a situation where she gets to this dam. But there we go, there the tracks are. So tracks are going up this road, which is good news. It means that we can then follow these and see where they go. And so while I follow these tracks and find out where exactly they head to and where we can try and find this cat, let's go back across to Taylor Mac, who hopefully won't get lost this morning and will be able to keep up with the cheetah.
I think I'm live. I unfortunately have got horrific comms here, which is not particularly good in this spot. So Scott's left the cheetah. He's going to go and look for something else. I don't know if we'll stay here for too much longer, because I don't know if I'm going to be able to hear any questions very, very well. And there are lots and lots of vehicles, and these cats don't really look like they're going to do much at all. For now. Anything can happen, though. Anything can change. We know that... Well, from experience, you've had that happen so many different times. And they're just resting up. Like I said, everybody knows that they're here now. They're not going to be able to just all of a sudden catch something, because the wildebeest, the zebra, the topi, all the animals that were around here are going to keep an eye out on them for the moment. But there are so many animals, you know, if they just eventually, and I'm sure they will, head in a sort of westerly direction, they're going to come across huge herds of wildebeest, and they might have another chance there. But for now, they're just relaxing. And even though they have got their heads up, I mean, I don't think they're too excited. That's very typical of cheetah behavior, is they find it particularly difficult to just, like a lion, put their heads flat down on the ground and go to sleep. They typically sit with them raised up. They'll go down every now and then, but any noise that they hear, if you think that a lion cat naps, a cheetah sleeps even lighter than a lion, and the smallest sounds, or the softest sound, will end up waking them up. I'm just looking at Scott to see what he's seen, because he's stopped all of a sudden. He might just be scanning the surroundings. Exhausted. But it's very cool to see them. I'm particularly excited. I mean, if they just stay down like this for most of the morning, it's okay. We'll come back here in the afternoon and hopefully spend some time with them too. I'm struggling with a DAC shot, I think it was. Now you're wondering, sorry, the comms are very bad, so I don't think I'll hang around you for too long, but we'll answer this question quickly. You were wondering, why don't more cheetah, and the males, form coalitions like the musketeers have? Wouldn't it make sense? And I missed the rest of it, but I would assume for protection, for hunting, all these different things. Yes, it most certainly would make sense. It's, I suppose, maybe there's just not enough opportunities around. For instance, I haven't seen many cheetah cubs, ever. I've never seen, like, little ones. I've seen them, you know, sub-adult age. So I don't know why they wouldn't. Maybe there's just not enough in the area. I mean, in the Sabi sand, the cheetah populations are so small. Also, the vegetation in that area, I don't think would allow for massive groups of cheetah. There's no big open plains like this. I mean, the Serengeti, the Masai Mara, the conservancies are great because they are so open, so they can sustain bigger groups. But maybe things are going to change. Maybe as we go along, more cheetah are going to start joining up. And I suppose it's also just by chance, isn't it? I mean, they don't have to come from the same litter like you typically see with lions when the males form coalitions. Or we know lions also have outsiders joining too, although it's not as common, I think, as it is with cheetah. Maybe there's just not enough of them to sort of meet up and find one another. I'm not actually sure of the reasons why. I'm sure the scientists will have a theory behind it, but again, we don't know for sure. These are all just theories that people put together. So they're looking around. It's almost like as when one has a rest and sleeps for a little bit, another one pops its head up. It's like they're taking turns. But they are particularly flat cats, like Scott said. It's never really fun watching flat cats. I think this afternoon could be quite interesting if they go on. It's a nice safe spot here. They can see all the way around them, so it's going to be quite difficult for something like a lion or a leopard to try and sneak up on these cats. I think that they'll see them before that happens, and that's normally what they will do. Or they'll try and find a little shady spot as well. You know who I'm quite looking forward to spending some time with is perhaps those border boys as well. The western corner and the triangle near the Purangut Bridge. That's quite cool. Right. I think what we're going to do, though, is they look very, very flat, and I'm really, really struggling to copy comms here. So I think we might move out of the area and go and explore some new spots, which I haven't been to before. There are plenty of those. Let's go back across into Tristan's car, who is still trying to look for Shadow and her daughter.